Tonight on 24 Frames, we check out what's cooking with the Family Meal Blog. Then, we sit down with former Red Raider football star Baron Batch to talk about his art. And finally, we check out what makes all our mornings great, the art of coffee. And you won't want to miss our South Plains session. 24 Frames starts right now.
I think people think that pizza is fast and easy and a kind of a last resort if they don't feel like cooking. And I think in America, typically pizza is pretty unhealthy. It has kind of a negative stigma in, the nutrition and diet world as just being loaded with cheese and grease, and it doesn't have to be that way. The pizza that we make at home is from fresh ingredients. We have a good time picking out different toppings. We always try and come up with something new to try. And it's really just a blank canvas for whatever we want to create that night. And the crust is the big thing. Matt has been perfecting this crust. Matt is my husband. He's been perfecting this crust for about 4 years now. He's tried 4 or 5 different recipes, and this is the one. This is the one that we love more than anything else. Crust is not a tough thing to make, and it only takes 4 ingredients. My husband uses a basic bread recipe, and we roll it out and use it for the crust, and it only takes 5 minutes per pizza.
I like dabbling in things. I just love all things creative. Like if it can be created and it's interesting and it interests me, I want to learn how to do it. I was always a creative kid. I used to, I used to create like these characters. I'd like draw a character. I drew more than anything. Painting's expensive. I couldn't afford paint. So I'd draw and color, and I'd create these crazy characters and name them and give them personalities and write, where they're from. And just always had this wild imagination.
Is my witness, oh, and your tears.
So I tore my ACL my first year, and the way it works was I rehabbed in Pittsburgh, so I would finish my rehab at like noon and would have the rest of the day to essentially do whatever because it was the off season. And I just moved into a new apartment, had nothing on the walls, and didn't want to go buy like cheesy art from like IKEA or something like that. So I was like, I'll just paint something. It's my own art. It's my house. Like if it's good or bad, whatever. I just want something up just to break the monotony of like the white walls of my apartment. So I started, and before I knew it, I just had art stacked up in my house, all these paintings, and I didn't have room on my walls anymore. Like literally, my walls were just covered. I'm sure some like the people that came over my house are like, "You're crazy. You're a crazy person," because it was just art everywhere. I even put a piece on the ceiling. Yeah, seriously, because I ran out of space on the wall. So I ran into a friend, and at the time she was tied in with a charity, cystic fibrosis in Pittsburgh, and she was like, "Hey, you ever thought about doing a show?" And I was like, "I'd do it if it was for like a charity." And she was like, "Oh, what a coincidence. I'm involved with a charity." So we put on a charity show, and that was my first show. It's one I did very, very early on. It's a sunset with a lot of stars and a little house on a hill. And when I was growing up, I grew up in a little trailer house out in the middle of nowhere. So when I painted this, it was my house. I saw it as a little trailer house out in the middle of nowhere. And I remember I'd always go look at the stars at night. We lived out so far out in the country that light didn't impede the stars. Like you could see every star in the sky, it felt like. And I'd always look at the stars, and I remember I think that it was such a cool idea that so many people that have done great things looked at the same exact stars that I looked at. And it was almost like, for me, like looking at the stars, it was like the ultimate like equalizer. Like if whoever did any great thing in the world looked at the same sky I did and went on to be great, like it doesn't matter what situation I'm in now, like we're all the same. I could do the same thing. I feel like through the things you create, through my art, that's the closest way, if you wanted to see what your soul looked like, you could. And for me, that's my art. To be able to do that and actually express that and put it on canvas for people to enjoy. And the best part of what I get to do is knowing that the pieces of art that I create are gonna all outlive me. Someone was joking around, they're like, "Man, it must suck that you're an artist and people are really gonna like you when you're dead." And I asked them, I said, "Well, when you die, what are people gonna think about you?" I think it's cool that people are gonna really enjoy my stuff when I'm gone. I think that's the goal in life, right? To leave something good that others can enjoy.
Oh, somewhere, oh, can we go there?
I'm so competitive, I want to take over every industry that I choose to. And that sounds crazy, but that's just how I am. I want to be, if I choose to do something, I don't want to be mediocre at it. In football, a lot of times, the work you put in, how hard you work, lots of times it's rewarded, but a lot of times it's not. Sometimes you might have a player who's just better than you athletically. Maybe a coach likes him more. Maybe in the NFL, they're getting paid more, so a team's financially more committed. But in the business world, it's like if you go out and you hustle and you work more than other people and you work harder than other people and you put out a better product than other people, you'll be successful. 5 or 10 years from now, I don't know, I want to be a shark on Shark Tank. I want to be the best me I could possibly be through my art or just painting all the time, like improvements and stuff that I see. Like I surprise myself, and it's a good feeling because you worked for it and you deserve it.
There's no program like the PBS NewsHour. It's been on the air for more than 3 decades.
The NewsHour is always going to take you deeper and take you broader. That's even more essential now than I think it ever was.
Now, what we're able to do is to take it to the next step, to coordinate even more closely with what we're doing online.
And we're finally in the position where we can expand our franchise to the weekend as well.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is kind of a natural evolution for the Monday to Friday program.
The world is more complicated than it's ever been. People have more access to sources of news than they've ever had.
And what the NewsHour does is it tells you not only what happened that day, it digs a little deeper.
Night after night, 7 days a week, we're consistently different than what the audiences get on broadcast television.
There has to be a destination where you can get the information and it's still going to take you someplace you didn't even know you wanted to go.
That's the NewsHour.
Back whenever I was 17, I started working at a coffee shop called Aromas. It was here in Lubbock, locally owned, and what ended up happening was that I had to go in for orientation. I mean, it was only 30 minutes, but I ended up learning about farmers, how coffee is actually made, how it's actually a cherry that grows on this shrub tree thing, and how you know, every step of the process in coffee is actually like very, very important. This basically sparked an interest because what ends up happening is that it turns into biochemistry. From there, I started doing a lot of independent research, and I started like really diving into the subject. And not just on a coffee level, on a shop level. I would sit at shops and actually do like tally marks as customers would come in, and I would actually write down what kind of drinks they were ordering. Eventually, I started working at Daybreak Coffee House that was here in Lubbock. That transferred into Good Brews Coffee House, which I had the privilege of managing. And then from there, it kind of just expanded into just being really immersed inside the West Texas coffee scene. I moved to West Virginia for a little while, and then my girlfriend called me up and then said, hey, I'm opening up a coffee shop. And that was kind of the birth of Gatsby's Coffee House. After that, I wanted to actually become an importer, and something that not really geared towards that anymore, but to do so I really felt like I needed to learn the roasting process just so that I would know how to communicate with roasters. As a roaster, I'd be able to say like, oh, okay, these were my experiences with these companies. And then kind of just fell in love with that for a while. And so June 2012 was whenever I bought like a little 1 pound roaster, which was basically an overglorified popcorn maker. It was me and my friend Ryan Montejano, and we started roasting at this little back house that I was living in at the time, so, which is now actually rezoned and my roastery. Now we're actually taking a direction where it's called direct trade, where roasters, importers, coffee shops, we're all kind of collaborating and working with each other on a really amazing level. I use an import company called Thrive pretty exclusively right now. They really do link me to the farmer to where I can actually like Skype them and like email them back and forth. Basically, roasters are helping out the farmers from ordering it directly, and which makes it to where the farmers can get better hands that are working on their farms, better fertilizers, and generally speaking, just making a better product. And so that's the first step. And then you have the importing of it and making sure that the bagging is correct, how it's stored is correct whenever it's being shipped over. From there, it's the roasting process. Whenever you have a roaster that is basically being really meticulous constantly and just making sure that everything is going to go right and that all of the sugar contents are going to be there. You have different subspecies of beans, everything depending upon the altitude, the region, the varietal or subspecies. You have how it's processed as well. That's going to go into really how the flavor notes are going to come out. And then also us playing with it back and forth, developing a lot of different roast profiles, sampling the coffee as much as possible, a lot of cuppings, which is a lot like a wine tasting where you're being very critical on the bean. Okay, for example, I have a Guatemala coffee. It's from a region called Coban. It's what we use for our espresso. It works great as just regular drip coffee. It's one of the most complex beans that I've ever had. Originally, whenever I was roasting it, and this is whenever it gets really technical, you're playing with heat variations and then really graphing all of those out. And so the first time that I really liked one of the roast profiles, I was basically just cranking the heat and really prolonging the heat all the way up until the end of the roast. What ended up happening was that there was a lot of spice in there, which is perfect for the holiday season because you had like cinnamon and allspice in there. You had a lot of dried strawberries, white chocolate, walnut. It was perfect for the holiday season. And then after that, I kind of wanted to play around with it more and see what else I could do. And so I started to drop the heat at the very end instead of still climbing it. And what ended up happening was that dried strawberry really started to present itself. You still get that cinnamon flavor in it, but it's not as predominant. Instead, all of the other attributes kind of started coming out. And they're as individual as you and I are. It's one of those things where they have their own kind of personalities, and it sounds really over-romanticized, but it's really true. We have beans that want to give off this certain attribute, and from there we can really develop flavor profiles the same way that you would taste wine, scotch, cigars, craft beer. It's basically just playing around with a palate.
This is Texas Tech University.
We inspire.
We discover.
We succeed.
We ride. We share our traditions.
And our innovations.
We are champions.
We work hard.
And play louder.
We are many things.
But wherever we go.
And whatever we do.
Every day.
Every day.
Todos los días.
Every day.
Every day, we are Red Raiders.
In the blink of an eye, the world has changed. 30 years have come and gone. There have been wars and peace. Justice has been served and denied. Fortunes won and lost. And we've watched it all. On big screens and small. On big screens and small. In the blink of an eye, it will be 2043. In the next 30 years, wars will be fought. Economies will crash. People will rise up. Nations will fall. And technology will evolve. Each new generation makes its own history. And a new generation of Frontline will be here to tell it. Frontline. Thought-provoking journalism, wherever and whenever you find us.
My family wasn't really all that musical. My brother learned how to play the guitar while he was in college, and he brought home a piece of paper and he wrote out chords, and I started playing it, self-taught on guitar. You know, it's just always been a passion. I love it. I was in a series of long-term relationships where nothing ever worked out, and then there's relationships like my wife now where they worked out perfect, and so I just took all of those experiences and I put them together, and I put together an album that just really reflects my life. For one of the songs on the album, we went to a cabin in Rivas, and it's a family cabin. Took Brandon Adams and Shane Rogers and Heath Tollison and Nick Shute, and we all went up there for a songwriter session, and we came away with one song that was a great song, and we recorded it on just a small recorder. About the size of a cell phone. It's a fantastic experience. Everything else we did out at Acuff with Alan Crossland, he produced everything. We'll be playing on April the 4th at the Blue Light opening for Brandon Adams and the Sad Bastards, and we will be headlining a show on April the 8th, and we have very special guests, the Goners, which are a bunch of guys here in town who are fantastic, and they're going to be opening, and it'll be a great time.
It's another lonely evening and the snow is falling down. Like thousands of falling angels lying lifeless on the ground. Till the gust of wind it gives them life, they try to fly again. Only falling down once more, it happens time and time again. And it's colder than it was before, since we said goodbye. And looking at those snowflakes, God, it makes me want to cry. But 1,000 miles away from you, I cannot make you understand. So I think of all our memories of time that clutched my wedding band. And to say I'm never going back, never going back again to that godforsaken town where it all came to an end. And I